All right. Haircut, John Lou, all right, we're going.
Shortest it's been in 3 years, right?
Well, Rick, maybe let's start with your thoughts going into training camp, how much you want to be able to achieve through the early days and then on into the preseason with the new set of cards you've been dealt here.
Well, it's, again, every time you get into training camp, it's a very exciting time, even for an old guy like me. I still love coming to training camp, and I love the end of the summer so we can get back on the ice. I'm looking very forward to working with this group again and with the new pieces that we have. And we'll go through training camp. We don't know a lot about them. I've watched enough video from them from LA, but they play a different system than we play. I do know this, and this is the most important thing, is that they all want to be Winnipeg Jets. And I just love hearing that. And they're all good players, they're all good people, and they're very happy to be here in Winnipeg. They're very proud to be a Winnipeg Jet, and that's the most important thing. So we look very forward to working with them.
From the coaching staff's perspective, if one was to suggest that how those pieces are assembled, it would be the focal point for you guys, would you be far off on that?
No, we've got to figure out where they're going to fit best. We're going to start training camp with Gabe on right wing, with Mark and KC, and see how that works. We'll start Alex with Lau and Apple, and we'll see how that works. And and Rasmus will start in the center on that fourth line. But again, he may move up. We don't know a lot about him because he wasn't used a lot in LA. So we're going to give all those three a great opportunity to find the chemistry with the right guys. But we're certainly going to give Rasmus a lot more ice time so we can figure out exactly what we have to work with.
Rick, sounds like Cole is going to get the first crack at that second line center spot. What was maybe the thought process behind that?
Well, I do know when I came in last year, they told me we drafted Cole as a centerman. Now with Mark and Doobie and trying to get Cole the correct ice time with the right people, we had to put him on the wing. But now with Doobie gone, there's an opening there, and we drafted him as a centerman, and we're going to give him every opportunity to play center.
Just wonder the approach this last year. You didn't know most of these players and new systems, all that. I imagine it was very heavy on kind of the teaching part of it. Does that change? Is this more about fine tuning and tweaking now because you're familiar with so many of these players?
It certainly helps that, yeah, I've talked to the guys the last couple of days, like I know their tendencies now. And from an individual standpoint, I know what I'm looking for when I see their game start to slip a little bit. I'm far better tuned with that. In terms of the systems, yeah, it is tweaking. Listen, we're like 31 other teams. We didn't win the Stanley Cup, and that's the bottom line. So we have to tweak a little bit what we do. There's not going to be significant changes. We still want to be a pressure team. We still want to build on some of the really good things we did last year, and which we did. Listen, we went into the year out of the playoffs the year before. We made the playoffs. We had to change the culture last year. We changed the culture. Our penalty killing was a lot better. Our defensive play was a lot better. We wanted more offense from our defense. We got that. We wanted 40 goals. We got 46. So we did a lot of good things last year that we will build on. And again, that being said, you can't lose sight of the fact we didn't win the Stanley Cup. We're like 31 other teams. We've got to get better. We've got to demand more from ourselves. We've got to expect more from ourselves. And that's what we're going to be pushing here in training camp.
The fact that through the first game and a half of your playoff series, you had what would turn out to be the Stanley Cup winners kind of on the ropes a bit. Does that change the way you reflect on last season in any way? No,
not really. No, because I didn't like the fact that the first home game we're down 4-1. I didn't like the fact that game 4, we have to win this or we're going down 3-1. All of a sudden we're down 3-1 at home. So my job, listen, I didn't come in here to win a popularity contest. And I didn't come in here to worry about my next job. I'm not worried about my next job. My job is to keep pushing this group. And that's what we're going to do.
Rick, you have the quality of chances down. Like you made Connor Hellebuck's life a little bit easier last year than it was before. Yep. How do you keep that going while maybe adding to the quality of chances that you guys are creating?
Well, yeah, we're going to keep focusing on the defense. We went from 29 2 years ago to giving up grade A's to 8th in the league. That's a significant improvement. But we're in 8th. There's room for improvement, right? There's room for improvement in everything we're doing. We want a better power play. Our power play has to get better. We do want to score more goals. So it's always been team offense, some good team defense, and we'll continue to focus on that. But there's certain things we're gonna try to do more in the offensive zone to create more offense. Like, I think our metrics in the offensive zone were 12th in the league. Well, that's not terrible, right? It's not. It was 11th and 12th. So we're in a good spot. Can we get that into the top 10? That's the objective, and that's the tweaks and the improvements that we have to make get this team to the next level.
Mentioned the power play, and with Blake and Caleb gone, it seems like there's some job opportunities there.
Yep,
So does that
there are.
give Nick or Cole or Gabriel, who's in line for that?
Well, certainly Nick's going to be out there. There's no question. We got to keep him healthy. We forget that he had some tough injuries last year. We forget about those things, which affected his ice time. But certainly Nick's going to be out there. Cole's going to be out there. Gabe's going to be out there. And those are things that, again, until we get out on the ice in training camp and see what the best fit and where the best chemistry is, those are things we'll be working on during training camp. Now, we're probably not going to do a lot of power play the first 5 days because we just got to get going. But after that, the power play is going to get a lot of attention for the rest of training camp.
Rick, how do you report off January, February, March of last year? Like, how do you?
That goes back to what I said. I know the players better. I know their tendencies, that when they're going good. I know their tendencies, okay, it's starting to slip a little bit. So it's up, and it starts with me. Listen, when the team slips, I'm the coach. It starts and ends with me. So those are the things that I'll be looking for. Okay, each individual player is starting to slip, then it's my job, and the coaching job is to stop it and correct it. So again, it goes back to knowing the players better, knowing their tendencies better, the good, the bad, and the things that we'll be looking for to stay on top of.
How does the culture evolve? How does the culture evolve with Adam taking over as captain and moving on from a guy who's a very prominent figure in the room and in the team's history?
Well, we started that process last year. We did. We had to take the C away from Blake. So we achieved what we wanted to achieve with that move. As tough a call as that was, and that was a tough call, there's no question, but it was the right call. And it was the right call because moving forward, we opened up the locker room to more individuals speaking up. We knew at that point they're probably going into this year, hopefully we're going to be in a position to name a captain. We had some really great candidates. We went with Adam. But that's kind of the process started last year, and now the complexion of the room changed with the changes we've made. We opened up the room last year to more talking and communication with the players. That all worked. So we're just going to build off that with the new captain.
What's the objective when you're dealing with a training camp in this first week, when you have a roster that's almost at 50 players? What's the goal for the first week of camp as a coach?
Make it hard. It's going to be a tough training camp. It's going to be a lot of skating. You can't. It takes all the X's and O's out of the game. You can't do those things unless you're in great shape. We're going to be a hard-working. Our team's going to be in great shape, and the way we want to play with a pressure game, as much as we can, you need to be in great shape. So we're gonna have battles. We're gonna have skating. The players got an email the 1st of September is prepare for another tough training camp, and that's our goal going into it.
And when you're dealing with that, like in terms of you're looking at a roster of that many people, many of which won't be on your team, what are you looking for from them aside from conditioning when they start getting in drills and stuff?
Well, first of all, we know they're in pretty good shape, but there's summer conditioning and there's NHL game conditioning. So we've got to bump the bar up a little bit to get them in NHL game condition. So you make the training camp as competitive and as difficult as you can with the drills. So no one's going to go half-assed through the drills. We're going 100%. We want to. Our practice habits last year were good. Because of the schedule last year and in my first year in Winnipeg, I don't think we practiced enough. So this year there's a lot more time to practice. So now we're going to go back to, okay, we got to create really good details to our game in practice. And so that's part of our goal going into training camp as well.
You said that you aren't here for a popularity contest. I mean, how do you move forward from the exit meetings?
That's done. That's 4.5 months ago, man. That's way behind us. We've already addressed all that. We've all moved on from that. That's 4.5 months ago, so that's not even an issue.
But how did you handle it? Did you talk to players individually, or
Yeah,
was there
you know me. We talk, man. We get everything on the table and we move on.
Did you learn anything that surprised you through that
I learned a
process?
couple things a lot about our team at the end of the year. There was a couple things that jumped right out at me, And, but those aren't things we discuss with you guys. No. Internally, we'll discuss. There are certain things that, no, we don't. But two things, I learned an awful lot about our team at the end of the year. I really did, and which is a good thing, which is a positive. And so we'll work from that.
Never mind us, but for fans who are wondering what it means and what it will mean going forward, can you shed any light on it?
Well, yeah, hopefully that will explain itself with the way we play.
Yeah.
Right? Fair enough?
Fair enough.
Okay.
We'll see.
As long as you're fair enough, I'm good.
Every team has players on expiring contracts, but it's not often when it's this top line center and a starting goalie. You have other guys that are important, top pairing defenseman, top six guy with Nino. How do you deal with that with the players, and is there anything required on that? Do you sit down with them individually, or how do you handle that part of it?
But listen, they're pros. They're 30 years old. They're not kids. They understand the business side of this game. Don't forever take this business side out of this fantastic sport we play out of the equation. So, but they're pros, and they've been around, and they've seen other guys in these situations, and we're counting on them to handle it like a pro. They're Winnipeg Jets, and we're just going to leave it at that.
Is there any advice that you share with them in terms of how you dealt with it with other star players who've gone through some of these?
Yeah, we'll be talking to them. Yeah, but that's already been addressed, and yeah.
Do you
We're
like
good.
that as a coach, thinking all these guys, they're all playing for their next contract, right? Maybe the spin-off actually benefits the Jets?
There's certain things a coach can't control, and there's certain things that we can't. So we don't dwell on the things we can't control. They're Winnipeg Jets, and I know they're pros, and they're good people, and they're very important parts of our team, and I don't think any of that will change.
What about the distraction that it creates, though, Rick? Like,
I won't
it's
be a
Canadian
distraction.
market.
Yep, the distraction will come from me in here, not in the room. So listen, if you guys want to make it a distraction, there's nothing we can do. If you don't want to make it a distraction, we're really good with that too.
Right, but it's always a distraction in Canadian
It's a
market, right?
discussion, and again, you're counting them, and listen, I know them both very well now. They're both pros, and they're going to handle it.
You guys signed LB, Chevy used the word tandem about 3 or 4 times in our presser. Are we, I want to say finally going to see Hellebuck starting to come a little bit down this year.
That would be, yeah, how many? That will be determined as we get into the second half, but yes, that gives us the flexibility to cut down into some of his games.
Rick, can
But,
tell if
you know,
it's
he
too
wants
far
to play.
ahead, But you've got, I believe it's 9 defensemen now who are on one-ways and would require waivers and all that. I mean, are you losing any sleep, kind of trying to figure out what the blue line might look like after camp?
No, it always goes back to the players will eventually cut themselves based on how they play. And that's what it's got. So we're going to give Billy, we're going to give Chiz, we're going to give those guys every opportunity to show what they can do. And then we'll have to make some, or if they play great like we're hoping they will, then we're going to have to make some tough decisions at the end of camp. But I'd rather have the tough decisions than, oh God, these guys are playing themselves right out of here. We want them. We weren't good enough last year. We didn't win the Stanley Cup. So we want anyone who can show that they're going to make us a better team. We want to see that in training camp. And if they can make us a better team and we feel really good about where they are, then that's where we're going to be. And then we'll deal with that problem at the time.
And by extension, you've got a lot of forwards too,
Yep.
you know, more depth guys that
Yep.
might make the argument they deserve to be on the NHL, then
Yep.
some tough decisions are
But we want them to make that argument.
Yeah.
We want them to show, I can help your team. I can make you get closer to get the Stanley Cup. And that's the whole objective here, is get the best team on the ice that we can that moves us closer to winning the Stanley Cup. Yeah, it was great we made the playoffs last year. It was. And we made a lot of improvements. But it still wasn't good enough. So we still have to keep getting better in everything that we're doing. Coaching starts with me. I've got to do a better job. The staff has to do a better job. The players have to do a better job. We have to expect more from ourselves, but it starts with me, and we're just going to keep pushing.
Rick, when you talked about knowing the players better and understanding like when their slide started happening, have you gone and kind of summarized in your head why that slide happened? It seemed to happen to so many people at the same time. Yes. Can you give us any kind of insight into
No,
how that
listen,
happened?
I thought a lot about the players all summer. Like, one thing with this job, like, it's summer, but this stays with you 24 hours a day. You'd be on the golf course, and you're sitting on the tee, and you start thinking about something, right? Well, it's the nature of the job. So I took a lot of time this summer just to analyze every player. And, okay, this is when they're going good. This is the signs that, again, like I mentioned earlier, okay, they're starting to slip a little bit. We're gonna deal with it right away. And then the player has to buy into that change, notify it as well. So it always comes back to what is and what isn't acceptable. This is acceptable. This is what we need you to do. This is starting to slip a little bit. This isn't acceptable. So let's address this now and let's clean it up as quick as we can.
Rick, in particular for the bubble guys, then, you said,
Bubble,
or the fellows that are battling, with the bottom end of the depth chart, how much of a balancing act is there for you as a coach? You know what you know about them, but also to not let that influence what happens going forward in this camp.
No, we know the players' strengths. We want players who maybe we weren't counting on being here. We hope some of those guys play their way onto the team, because that'll make us a better team. So, again, the players will dictate that. We know their strengths, and we're hoping we see a lot of great things in this training camp. And we're only playing 6 exhibition games, so some of these guys aren't going to get the games that they should. But it's going to be important for them to show up every day and show us what they can do and go back to the practices and training camp and every drill that we're doing.
Do you have interim meetings for training camp? I know you had exit meetings at the end of last season, but.
That's
start
all,
camp, do you
that's
have-
during the summer. You talk to
during
the
summer,
players
talk to
during the
players
summer. Oh, yeah.
individually?
Yep.
On the phone or just?
Yeah, on the phone.
With the number 1 goalie and the number 1 center. I think you too, right? 1 year?
Pardon me?
1 year left for you too?
Yeah, I guess so.
Is this?
I really haven't thought about it until you tell me. Like I said, I'm not here worried about my next job. So whether I have 3 or 4 years left, that's not going to affect anything I do.
Does it feel like
Doesn't.
a weighted big year for this franchise?
Yeah, no, listen, I went to Dallas, and I was offered 3-year contracts by 3 other teams. I took a 1-year going into Dallas. That was what I wanted to do. So that stuff doesn't bother me at all, and not at my age. The players, again, they understand this is a business, and you expect them to handle that. But if there are kids and they're nervous going through it, yeah, that's one thing. But you're talking about a couple of guys that are really good pros and are really good players and are very important pieces of our team, and that's how they're going to be handled, and that's what we expect from
I
them.
guess what I meant was the results will maybe dictate a lot of what this team looks like going forward.
Yep,
More than normal.
probably right on. You're way ahead of me, man. I'm worried about tomorrow. Let's get through tomorrow, and then we'll worry about Friday. How's that? Okay.
Housekeeping one, Rick. Anyone coming in injured, do you anticipate it's gonna prevent them from?
Bon
starting camp?
Giovanni is going to miss the first couple of days. I think he pulled a groin, but at this point, as we speak now, we expect everyone on the ice tomorrow.
Who's that?
Bon Giovanni. Yeah, I'm sorry, he pulled a